Organissima, New York. Your exotic skin, hair, and beauty source, and your one-stop shop for all your natural and organic skin and hair care, featuring authentic organic Moroccan oil and prickly pear seed oil and much more. Bringing you only the best, straight from the source and proudly produced in the USA. So what are you waiting for? Shop today. Organissima, New York. Your beauty is our duty.
Folks, welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio, with your host, Hurricane H. New day, always a new show, and a great show is going to be today. Topic of every hour, every day, topic that we need to always talk about, things that affect us in life, with a guest that actually going to drive us into some expertise that can help us in probably everyday life and things that we handle on a day-to-day basis. Again, I always start with some sort of suspicion here and suspense, but it's really just to get the excitement going here. But the fact is, mental health is always a big discussion. Stress is always a big discussion. I mean, life today is just too stressful, and we cannot have enough discussions about it. How we can potentially deal with this and cope with all the things that come our way. So, with me, without any further ado, I have Annie Delre. And she's a nationally board certified health and wellness coach. So that's one. She's also got a bachelor's degree in psychology. She's a master's degree in integrative wellness coaching. So she's got a whole bunch of stuff. And she does, really wellness coaching, day in, day out. That's what she does. She also has a book, and we're going to talk about that as well. I think the book is going to be part of the most interesting pieces of the discussion today because just from the title, you're going to have fun with it. But I think we're going to go deeper. And it is something that we can all relate to at any given point of our lives, whether we are going there or we've been there. And so, again, that's very ambiguous right now, but we'll get to it. So, Annie, welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. And, this topic is always a key topic. It's an important topic. And I do a lot of, discussions, and a lot of it really, revolves around health, wellness, right? And that's the biggest thing. But mental health is just as big. And we have few talk shows that we actually have, pretty much regularly on the channel here. But really, every day I get somebody new as a guest, and we get a whole spin on things. Some of it is similar, some of it is new, and we are learning every day. And really, our mission is to enlighten people and educate them about what can they do in terms of different things. Now, so let's first do, as always, talk about Annie's background. Annie's, I gave a little brief, but I'm not going to do a better justice than you would. So let's talk about Annie's journey and what got you into the work you do today.
Sure. So my journey began in New Jersey. That's where I'm from. That's where,
Woo!
yeah,
My digs.
Jersey girl. And I'm so glad I grew up on the East Coast. I am so glad that that's where I grew up into my early 20s. And then I moved to California. I moved to California by myself. I had never visited before, but I got into grad school and I was like, all right, I'm going to move. Let's do this. So now I was in California by myself, and I was super poor, like poor. And I ended up hating my program, quitting it, which I think a lot of people can relate to. And when you've put a lot of money into school, that could be a little frustrating. And then I found a coaching program, and I've been doing it ever since.
Hey, well, so hold on. So there's quite a bit there. First of all, that was like the brief, like that, just like the summarized version, like the sum up, right? But really, there's a lot to and really earth from there. Like, there's much stuff in there that we can talk about. One is, first of all, Jersey girl. I live in Jersey, so hey, greetings from the Jersey, from the Jersey Garden to you. But you did something that is not unique, but dairy. A lot of people take that leap and just move out, for whatever career path, and dreams, and they do that. And the exodus from Jersey, East Coast to West Coast, is very common. A lot of people go to Hollywood, try to get their way in that world. You obviously went for school, and and by the way, that's important. Sometimes people have to make that change in their life, no matter what. And it's not easy to do it on your own, but you did. And again, for our people listening and watching, if that's something that will drive you and there's something that you have to do or you want to do, I mean, no one can stop you. And you know what? The only way to do it is just do it. You go, make it happen. It may work, it may not work. It doesn't matter. And we have a good example that Annie, what she went there for did not work, and she converted to something totally different, and it's working. So understand that, and I'm pretty sure, Annie, if you did not make that move, maybe you wouldn't have, stumbled onto what you're doing today. So you never know where that route, is going to lead you to, and then what that outcome is going to be. So that's an important message, I think, that we can take from just your example of your decision where you went there. The other one is, as you said, you went to a program, you paid a lot of money, because it is not cheap. I'm sure education in our world is unbelievably, expensive. I cannot understand why is it that we actually literally start in this country, specifically in the States. I don't know about other countries. I think most of the other countries have different programs, but in the States, you start with a huge loan and a debt, and you come up, already owing. You haven't even started earning and you're already owing. And that's a problem, that we have. Unfortunately, I don't know if there is a solution to it. There are solutions because other people are doing it differently in other parts of the world, but it is unfortunate. So again, I actually had this discussion literally yesterday with someone. And I always say this: if you're going to a master's program and things like that, and I've actually given this advice to my employees and my teams and things like that, and I always said this: if you want to go into a master's program, try to get into a company that actually has good tuition reimbursement and things like that. Get the experience aligned with whatever the education you're going to do, so it doesn't impact you financially, and then you are building the experience while you're getting your degree, and then boom, the next 10 you're at the next level. And that's just a simple advice, but it does work when you do it correctly. But not everybody gets it right, and that's okay too. It's just that sometimes people don't know how to balance it out, right? So anyways, enough about me, but those are two elements I wanted to just take, and extract from your experience. But really, you went to have a career path, right? An education, and eventually get there, but that didn't work out for you. Now, what was wrong about it? I mean,
it was so boring. It was so boring because when I was in my bachelor's and I learned the difference between coaching and therapy, I was like, coaching is amazing. That's totally what I want to do. But this was like around 2015. And coaching was still kind of BS. I mean, even today, some people think it's like real BS. So you were either a top business coach, right? Like if you thought of coach, you thought of like a top business coach, coaching CEOs, or you thought of a sports coach. But everything else, like the word life coach was just thrown around. Now there's like a ton of niches. If you talked about coaching, at least the word, people wouldn't be like, what the heck is that? But I didn't think it was practical to do full time. So I was like, I'm going to go get a safe career. I'll be a speech language pathologist. This will be fine. I like helping all age groups. I can do this. And then I get into my first semester and I'm like, I've never been more bored in my life. And I knew that was a problem because I love being a student. And I love to learn. And I don't mind the textbooks and I don't mind the papers. So the fact that I was just hating every minute of it, I was like, oh, you can't do this. Like, you can't do this. So I quit. I got a full-time job. And then it's funny you mentioned working for a place to help pay for school, because that's what I ended up doing. I ended up starting in my master's program and then working as an admissions counselor at the school, at the graduate school.
There you go. That's one way to do it. But,
Yeah.
we didn't rehearse that, but you're right. I mean, that's again, because here's the thing, the reality of this world that we live in today, I mean, you cannot even get a real job without some experience behind it, right? That's the first thing they ask. Like they don't even, your algorithms today are not even humans. They just wash you up immediately with your backdrop. And if your backdrop or background is, is less than I guess pleasing to the technology, to the robot. It
Just
just
gotcha.
yeah, you just basically dismissed, right? So they don't even get to the point where you can sell yourself, and really that's what an interview is about. It's like, you can have 10 people, but someone's going to drive that discussion and you'd be like excited about, I want this person with me. And you don't get that in that first batch of interview, well, in the process now with the algorithms and the stuff. What I do like now is there is some companies that give you, do you want to opt out of the algorithm? And so I'm not sure if
Ooh, I haven't seen that.
I
Ooh,
it's there. So now you do get, when you apply to something, they'll give you the option if you don't want to be tested out by an actual robot, which probably can take longer for you to get into a human, but at least you don't get the immediate dismissal by default. I mean,
right.
because I mean, really, they look at keywords, whatever, and then boom, boom, and that's it. I mean, it's got to be that. There's nothing more ingenious about it. It's just AI looking at your keywords in there and maybe some relevant timelines or relevant names. But that's all there is, right? But you did it right and you moved. But here's the thing, though, folks watching and listening. Um, you when you went in, you wanted to do that, right? It's not, and that's, by the way, something that a lot of us do. We go into a career path or an education path that we think that's going to be us, but then you just realize this is not for you. And the great news is that we live, as much as I stated that the education system is expensive and it's difficult to navigate, but we have flexibility that, again, in other parts you might not have. So
Mm.
you can move from one program to the other program. You can switch credits, so it's credit based, so it can give you those opportunities. So it's never too late. You can change any given time. You can finish a program, start a program. Sometimes you can get a second master degree with a couple additional courses, and voila, you have the stuff. So we have availability of choices and things that can make it. But at the end of the day, I can still, and I'm not sure if this is true, maybe you can validate this, is that even though it was boring, I'm sure you picked up something there.
Yeah, I mean, it started the domino effect. It made me move there because I like to think I'm a practical woman, and in speech language pathology, most times you start off making 80K, and then you just make more after, and you can work full time and you can work part time, and you could do it staying at home. And again, this is 2015. This is when staying at home was still something somewhat foreign to people. And you could work with stroke victims or kids, or so there was so much flexibility with speech. So I was like, I'll just do that. And I'll start off with 80K, and that will make me like calm to start off, and I'll build up, and I'll do coaching on the side, and I'll make more money. Like I was looking for security so that eventually I could have freedom. That's where my head was at. But when you're studying coaching and self-development and like behavioral change, I would be a hypocrite to stay in a program that I hated, because that's not what I would tell a client to do. I would tell a client, we need to talk about your values and your strengths and pick a career that you love. So it was too hard. It was too hard to study this stuff and then actively go against what I'm studying.
But Annie, a lot of people are, fortunately, they do that. They go into a program, it's just a dead end, they finish it up, and then they end up switching careers anyways. They're not doing that. As a matter of fact, I think the majority, you know, uh, you know, I know your book is going to take us back to high school, right? And in high school, this is a big deal. I mean, I have two teenagers in high school, and we're having these discussions already. And one of them actually has her mind clear, and she knows exactly what she's doing. And so I think she has. The other one is still not sure. He thinks what he knows what he wants, and I think he is going to pursue that. But at the end of the day, you got counselors and things like that. You have some stuff, but it is still, when you go into the initial stuff in the college, unless you go to med school or some specific, school for a program, you're just going to get some basic credits to start, and then figure out your minor, and then eventually like what's going to be my major, and then that may be where your path starts, shifting. But again, it's good to get some advice in advance to try to get some keyword passion you just stated. What is it that drives you? And I think a lot of people know that from the get go. You know what drives you. This is for you, not. I mean, that's just simple, right? But sometimes people haven't gone to it yet. They're not there yet, not at that age. And
Mhm.
and I think we're gonna tackle that more on the book side. But but I do want to talk about one thing you stated, and I think that's important to people watching and listening. Now, and by the way, thank you for stating that, proudly. And you said I started poor, right?
So boy, it's just the
Well,
truth. Yeah.
so here's the thing. Poor is a status, right? It's just something that because it's limited funds, limited whatever resources. But at the end of the day, it doesn't stop anyone, right?
Mm-mm.
If you want literally to make it happen, I mean, you can be good in school, you can get a scholarship, you can work on the side. There's things, but you can't let that be your determinant or your like excuse. And again, I just wanted to highlight that today because for people that may have similar situations. And by the way, a lot of people do have that. This is not, only the few and the lucky ones have a better situation from the get go. Many start with the 0 point or very little to get around. A lot of people come from all over the world, to get for a better opportunity here or go somewhere else in the world to because they cannot have better opportunities, whatever they are. And that happens also in the States. But that should not be a hurdle. It may be difficult. It may be a little harder than if you had the means immediately to get you going and maybe get into better schools, whatever. But if you have the determination and you have the will and the drive, I think you can still do it. And
Yes.
it has been done. It has been proven. You're an example, but a lot of people may not tell people that that was their condition, but you didn't care. Because you're proud of who you are, and that's important. Again, that's we don't select who we are when we are born. We don't select our families. We don't select our environment. Some people get lucky by being born in a royalty family, and some people are just in the opposite side of it. Doesn't mean anything. It just means that, and believe me, we've seen people with a lot of money lose all of it, and people with zero money become billionaires, right? That happens again in life. So understanding those are the rules, understanding that everyone has an opportunity, and we do have potential choices to change that opportunity. Again, I'm not saying it's easy, folks, but it is done. It is possible. It has been successfully demonstrated by many, many, many people over and over. So again, just a quick message. We try to take some stuff, from our discussions and just reemphasize on some realities that can help us by listening to this, by potentially just being reminded that I can do it. You probably can, and you will, and that's just that simple. So that was it. I hope I drove that home, but so Annie, you chose to really and do something passionable that you are passionate about.
Hmm.
You help you help people with their wellness and health. You help people and guide them, right? That's your question. And I love what you said about coaching then, coaching now. It's become more acceptable. You can talk to a coach, and people, I think, because they didn't believe that they needed somebody's help. If it was not a
Right.
doctor, they didn't need someone that didn't have that certification or that specialty. But they don't realize that people that have gone through potentially difficult times sometimes can be the better coach because they have that. There's different expertise or degrees of certification that give people the expertise to be able to guide people and help them, such as yours. So let's talk about that transition. That was your passion. You went for it. You did it. And then you went. I mean, I know you talked about money. Was there a money drive there, or it was just I don't care. I want to do it because I love it.
Um, I think both sides. One was I'm doing this no matter what, which is why I was okay with it being a part-time thing because that's why I was like, all right, no, I'm going to have a steady career and you'll just make money there and be fine. And then whatever coaching happens is whatever happens because you won't need that money. So when I went into it, I was like, I just want to help. I just want to see what's happening. And then it came to a point where it was, but it's healthy to want money and to want to help people because what you're teaching other people is that it's healthy to want money. And not that I work with every client about finances, but some of them, that is their main challenge. So we talk about mindset and the idea of scarcity and how that is going to affect every area of their life. Or even the let's play the long game together. Do you need a part-time job with your full-time job right now? That's okay. You're playing the long game. And I don't know if I should keep going on with examples, but just the idea, I forget where I was even starting.
What was that with you making that leap,
Oh,
for your passion rather than for the money? And I personally believe if you follow your passion, the money will follow. Yeah,
yeah.
because you're gonna make it lucrative, because you're gonna enjoy it and you're gonna do good with it. And you're right, you can complement it if that's what's gonna drive it until you get to that healthy financial point. Because again, the finances are important; they're part of life, but they're not the main thing. It, I started making this new joke about the TGIMs, right, as opposed to TGIFs. you
That's
know,
when you like what you do.
if you're really doing what you love, every Monday is a beautiful day. If you don't, Monday sucks.
Yeah,
So we
exactly.
want to get everyone to have TGIMs every day. So every day is a TGIM for you, and then life becomes peachy. And that is going to be the ultimate target for many of us, because that's really the ultimate goal. Many people think I want to work to make money, but really, we don't want to work and make money. We want to have a lot of money so we can have a better life and do other things with that money. And so therefore the end game is not really the money, is the outcome of what the money is going to help you with. But is money everything? Probably not. It's not. I mean, it's never going to, fulfill everything. People have
Hmm.
money and they have voids.
Yeah, totally. And I like that you brought that up. I think it's the book, The 10X Rule. I cannot think of what that man's name is. I've read it like 3 times, which is just the worst that I can't think. James is his first name. I can't remember, but it's 10X. He's very intense. This author is super intense, but I like it. I like that he's like aggressive and intense, very masculine selling. But one of the things he says is he's very confident and open about talking about money. And he says, and people will tell me, like, yeah, but money's not everything. And what he says is, yeah, I never said it was everything. I just said it was important. And so I feel like a lot of people, the first thing they say back when someone talks about like their want for money or their plans for money, they're like, yeah, but money's not everything. But did I just say money is everything in my world and I need this, or else like nothing else will make me happy? So I like that he talked about that, because it's that idea of like, it's not all or nothing. Oh, maybe that's not the best phrase for it, but
You're right. It's not all or nothing. I mean, there is there is got to be balance. You can have it all, and sometimes there is no such thing as have it all. I don't think there is. Because
because
you don't
everyone's
control.
all is different. Like,
Yeah, well, that's really it. I mean, your life has many things, but the first things that you have to have is your basics. And the basics is if you're not happy, right? Nothing else matters. I don't care. The money in the world cannot make you happy. If you have health issues or you have family problems and stuff, money cannot buy you any otherwise. You can buy you temporary pleasures, right, to just compensate, but it's not going to resolve the issue for you. That's the thing. Like you said, you used the word mindset, and if your
yeah,
mindset is off, doesn't matter how much you have money, you're always gonna spend it the wrong way. And many people had, we've seen people go through great opportunities, and they get money, but then they destroy that money. I mean, if you look at, for example, Shaquille O'Neal, right? Great example. And I think I watched him talk about something once, and he had stated that he was about to lose money, but then he was guided correctly, and then he started investing. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's kind of like the story. And then he is, I don't know if he's a billionaire yet, but I think he's up there. He's got
wow,
multiple businesses. He's got, and he's invested in a lot of things, because it was not about just spending money on your entourage. It's about taking that money and reinvesting it and reinvesting and being in a lot of places. Then the money is there. And as opposed to, like, some people can get to that, like, fame with some startup money, but then they'll just spend it immediately and then be in debt, for the rest of their life, and like nothing happened. Because money is very hard to bring about, but it's very easy to spend. you know if you tell
yeah,
someone, can you spend $1 billion in a day? you can literally spend $1 billion a day. It sounds a lot, but you buy a few planes, a few boats,
An island.
an island, and it's done, right? I mean, literally 3 transactions can actually get done, right? So it sounded like, $1 billion. Oh, give me that money. I'll take my life. Yes, an average person will probably never spend $1 billion in their life because they know how to manage it. But if you want to go extravagant, you can. And but again, what's the point if you spend it all in one day, and tomorrow you're sick and you have none? There you go. It's like you're square one. We have to be careful about that. So it's not always about the money, but it's about the end results, about the passion, and you pursue the passion, and you not only you pursue it, you are helping people, converting them to a better life, to having a better quality of life. Because that's the other thing, you're helping their wellness, their mental state. I mean, and by the way, being well has to do with a lot of things, and mindset, entourage, environment, understanding your finances, how to operate in your daily life. Your fitness can be part of it. Your food can be part of it. Everything. So let's talk about that. Like in your work, how do you? I mean, what is your process with your clients, and what some of the things that you would tell people to potentially avoid if you can?
Definitely we go over values. It's something that I have them identify, if not in the first meeting, by the second, and have them address that. Because it's not as if the word values is a foreign word. People are like, oh, okay, yeah, I have values, but what are they? Because some people don't value the same thing. It's just not the same. So, and then the next step is compare what your life is like to your values. So, for example, if one of your values is loyalty, but you're with a partner who continuously cheats on you, and you work under a boss who constantly takes credit for your work, and you're wondering, why am I so unhappy? Why do I feel depressed or mad all the time? Why am I unable to have a bond with my partner? You're actively against one of your values. You'll never be happy because you're not aligned with your values. So either your values are going to have to switch it up, or you're going to have to make a different decision, or you're going to stay in victim mode. Those are the only solutions. And I say that a lot kinder, but I am pretty upfront with clients as well, to just say in the most loving way, you are your own problem. And the fantastic news is you are also your solution. So I like to pretty much say that in the beginning as well, of like, listen, I'll be your biggest cheerleader. I am here for you. At this point, I've coached between 500 to 600 clients. I'm so down for their success. I'm so down to teach things that have worked for others. But the first step, again, is like, what are your values? And also giving them the reality check of like, you're the problem in this situation. Now let's talk about solutions.
That's a tough one, right? Well, but let's talk about that, right? So people have challenges,
Yeah.
and I think one of is we all think that we're right at all times. At least I think we all have some level of that, right? Self-righteousness. We all think that we know it all. I mean, listen, I would say I'm guilty as charged to a degree. I mean, I try to get a reality check every now and then, but sometimes, you get into like this grandiose moment. Yeah, the ego, and you think that it's not. And then unless, but that's it. That I practice that self-talk, like, hey, dude, what's up? And sometimes you're like, did I do it right? So, but that doesn't mean that everybody's doing it. But again, it's not about me. But the idea is that we have this problem as humans. We do have that personal, touch that is, we believe in ourselves, but sometimes in the wrong way. So what are some of the challenges that you have encountered with some of your customers and clients? Without, I mean, just general stuff.
Definitely confidence. That's a big one. It's a big thing that people suffer with. And because of the lack of confidence, it bleeds into all the areas. So like their relationship or work, their physical health, their finances, it just bleeds into all these areas. Another thing is communication. And that's also personal or professional communication of just, especially for the introverts, I just like, it doesn't come naturally to me to talk at a meeting where I'm like, I have a question. And then everyone whispers to me, I'm so glad you asked. I was too scared to ask. Right. Or they're like, does anyone want to come up and present? I'm like, I'll present. Well, other people are like hiding underneath the desk, but they're brilliant people that deserve to share their knowledge and ask their questions. So the idea of building confidence, so you can ask questions in meetings, so you can share with your colleagues all this amazing information you have. For my male clients, sometimes it's communication with their partners, with their bosses as well, right? Especially if their bosses are female, they're like, please let me be better at communicating with her. But males trying to understand their wives, especially when they have children.
Confidence is a big deal. I mean, but how do you build confidence? That's that's got to be, that's a tough one, because I mean, it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of you making the effort.
Yeah. Well, number one, I ask them, like, was there ever a time in your life where you were confident? So that is to give it a comparison. So for example, maybe they were confident before the year they were laid off. Like they were confident all up to the day and hour that they were laid off from this big job, that they like really worked hard to stay, and they thought their team was doing good, and they and their whole team got cut. And now it's a year later and their confidence is still shook. Then there's other people who have never had confidence, right? So I just want to know where we're starting from. Like, is there something that triggered this lack of confidence? Sometimes it's just, as people get over it, the lack of confidence, like life hits you down multiple times and you're just like, either does this get easier or what's going on here? But I have them do practical exercises. So the first exercise is writing down all your achievements. And achievements can be from earning a degree to saying hi to someone in a coffee shop when usually you would look down at your phone the whole time. Like, whatever achievement it is, asking a question in a meeting when you normally would never. Picking up the phone with a phone call when normally you would never answer the phone and you would just send a text. So little things, whatever that. The next one is writing down all your compliments. So I recommend keeping that in a running note in your phone. And some people may say, I've never gotten a compliment, right? Because if you're feeling low, you don't have the confidence to remember being told you're confident. And if that's the case, I ask them to ask their family, friends, coworkers, or boss. So it wouldn't be so much that they would say, can you give me a compliment? It could be, hey, what am I doing well? What's a skill that you think I have? Or what's your favorite memory of me? So you're building this list. So at a moment that you're not feeling great, you look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, yes, I had this bad conversation with my boss, but look at this list of all these amazing things I've done. And I have a list of people who love me and support me. And here's measurable, valid answers. So I think that really helps people, especially my analytical clients, like my engineers, like they need to see evidence that this is the real deal.
Also, Annie, I mean, does not start with believing in someone's self. I mean, in yourself. I mean, right? In order for you to be confident, the first rule, I guess, it starts with you just knowing who you are and being aware of who you are and not worrying. I think that's the problem, because when we worry about everybody else's opinion about ourselves, that's when we lose the confidence, because now we're not meeting everybody's expectation. But if I'm confident, I don't care what people think about me, right? And that's, I think that's really the dividing, element between someone who feels the confidence and someone who may lack, the expression of confidence. Because I think they have it, they just cannot express it because they're shy and because they're not clear about whether they can. I mean, here's the thing. I love what you said about raising your hand. Sometimes I've been in places where like I sit back and I watch and no one, dares, and then, okay, I'll take it. I mean, but like, sometimes that's what it is. Sometimes, you just sit back, and it's not that you're not confident, you don't want to be that making too much noise, right? So it depends on the situation, but you have to know that you have what it takes in anything that you do in life. But that's not easy. It takes a lot of work, I think, because you have to be, I guess, having a constant discussion with yourself. I don't know if people are doing that. I mean, I'm not sure if everyone watching or listening is taking the time to have these rehearsals, with themselves, and like because I do this exercise personally. Like I'm always asking, like, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? Is it my fault? Could I have done it differently? And I ask these questions at the minute that I see something, like, any outcomes. I'm like, what could I've done better? And but that doesn't take away from my level of, how I feel about myself. It just, guides me to tweak things to be better at things. But that's the thing. So it starts with like, long time ago, I learned to do one thing. I don't care what people think. You can call me whatever you want. It's not going to phase me. Now, when I started as a kid, I mean, I was bullied. People, looked down at me and all that stuff. Then that kind of reinforced my character that, what? That was all fluff. And you know what? I was the one that got better. I was the one that did things. And you know what? That didn't stop me. And so I realized that nothing can phase you. And then I use another tool. And again, I'm just sharing with you, but really with our audiences, what you said, Annie, is powerful because that's the big thing. If you can get to the point where you're so confident about anything, and by the way, you can be overconfident, and that may be sometimes negative, but that's okay because you'll fail some, and well, again, failure to me is not a word that I try to use. You'll experience failure, which is basically learning different things, or what not to do if you want to call it that way. But the idea is that it's okay, but we need to be able to have that level of belief, and then the rest will happen. In your work, do you find that people, the ones that have this lack of confidence, have difficulty believing in themselves?
Yeah, I think so. I think they are most people are too scared to even set the goal, especially if they've tried setting the goal and haven't accomplished it in the past. So for example, like working out is a super common one. So like, yeah, I started 3 days a week and I did good for 2 months and then I stopped. And this happens to me every January or this happens to me every summer. So they don't even want to say the goals out loud anymore because they're so embarrassed about their past failures or the meditation goal or the walking goal or those are just some common ones. People who want to write a book, their writing goals. So I think also that's why they're somewhat scared to sign up with a coach because now someone's going to keep them accountable.
Word accountable.
This like we talked about this, remember?
But Annie, so now you're talking about, I think the real issue is accountability.
Yeah.
People, and this has been my experience, people are always shy away from responsibility, especially you see in the corporate world, like decision. Many people choose not to be the ones making decisions because they don't want to be, because the fear is like, well, who made that call? He did. She did. So no one wants to be that one that's being
The
pointed
what?
at. As opposed to like, if you become a leader, right? And by the way, we're not talking about being a CEO. This is just like being a leader in person. Is that you make a judgment based on a set of, ideas or set of information, and then you make a move, you make a decision, you make a play. That's it. It works. It's great. It doesn't. Why not? At least you tried. But it beats not doing. But accountability is a big word, and I think that's another issue that I see in a lot of folks, that they just are afraid to be responsible, to take accountability for their actions, or to even make a call or decision. Because to your point, if I decide to go to the gym 7 days and I'm not going to do it, that's a problem. But you see, is it really a problem? So what? You don't go 7, you go 6. You don't go 6, you go 5. But you just keep the next day, the next week, you do more. If they understand that, then they take accountability. To this week, I'm going to be a little weaker, but next week I'm going to do better. And then, but see, when you do that, you give up. When you stop, you give up. And when you give up, it takes you back a few steps. And then you're just like, that's when you lose the confidence. That's when you start like, it didn't work. But it didn't work because you gave up, because you stopped. And that's the thing. If you're in it, you will win it. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just my philosophy, but it's really, amazing that you're coaching people, and those are like the key specific elements that you were able. When I asked you, those like your first ones that came up, and they are the ones that are, I think, shared by almost everyone on this planet. You know,
Yeah.
whether we believe in ourselves, we're confident enough, and whether we are willing to set goals and stick to them and being responsible. And those are all things that when I've talked to quite a few coaches and folks that are like expert in this, and these themes keep coming on the discussion all the time. And are they difficult? Not to a degree, but can they be difficult for someone? Sure. And that's really the reality of things. So, Annie, um, live work balance. That has to be one of the biggest challenges that people are always facing. You talked about in the confidence, you mentioned the element of, guys not able to potentially communicate with their spouses or significant others, or bosses. But really, that's live, as a
Everywhere.
whole, if everywhere, but also, we work, we have to do certain things. That really becomes very, I guess, entangled, and it becomes a more difficult task for a lot of people. It's not easy. What is
Mm.
your experience with this particular dilemma?
Oh yeah, this is like pretty much every one of my clients that has a job. Work-life balance is something that's always brought up. And actually back to this idea of mindset, one of the first things I teach them when that topic is brought up is, all right, we're going to do a mindset shift with verbiage. We are taking the word balance out and we're adding the word harmony. Because when people think balance, they think 50-50. But if we were to take a percentage of your day or of your week, life, whatever, do we want to spend 50% of our time working? I know I don't. I don't want to spend 50% of my life working. I love what I do, but that doesn't mean that I want to be not with family and friends or not have downtime, right? So getting clear to people of what are your thoughts on using the word harmony as opposed to balance? And if we do use balance, do you want it 50-50? So with these like hundreds of clients that I've worked with, I can think of two who said, oh yeah, I want 50-50 or more. And these are people both that had zero family members and also no friends. And they just flat out said, I'm okay with 50-50, if not more work. Everyone else, so hundreds of other people were like, no, why? Are you kidding me? And I'm like, okay, well, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just sharing what the word balance means, essentially. Like, and then we find out, how can you make this life harmonious? So I really like measurable things because I think it helps people. So I'll say, what percentage of your day do you want to spend by yourself? What percentage of the day do you want to spend on your physical health? And it might be different each day. Some people, my clients, will want like 5% of their day to be spiritual, while other clients are like, we don't even talk about spirituality. They don't care, that it's not their focus, at least right now on their journey. So their pie is different than another's.
It's amazing, like listen to you, like how you have different spectrums, but you have the two extremes, but the majority falls in that middle ground where they're all kind of juggling the same. And I love when you said 50-50, because in essence, I mean, think about it. The average work hours are like 40 a week, right? Or 8 hours a day, give and take commute. Then the rest is food and this and that. And then you sleep about 8. So really, you know, it's already like, taking over a toll. If you do 50-50, I mean, you have no life. I mean, I'm sorry, but it's really, that's what it is. Because you're going to be sleeping, another, 30% or 40% of your day. And that's all there is. So life is going to go by. And that's the other thing, depends on the age. I think that's going to make a big difference. Someone who's younger will probably think they have eternal time. Someone who gets a little bit, in the ages, will actually value the time differently. And that's actually true. I can speak to it because every decade in my life so far had a different, meaning in a way, and time meant differently. you get to a certain point where really every minute, so I don't have time for BS. I don't have time for nonsense. I don't have time for anything because I know there's only a few years that will be available to me as best health, whatever you can have. And so there's a point where you don't see time as relevant. But there is a ticker when you get to a point where literally it is amazing. I never thought about it until I got to a certain point, and then like it became a real thing.
It's
Like
common with parents too. Like once you have kids, things change. Your timing change. You're
it does.
selfish or you're not. It's not really like that, but you know what I mean? Like it's either now your life is different because you have a child and you're going to care for your child, or you're going to continue acting like a person with no kid. So most people
You can balance it out.
yeah,
Yeah.
like most people are like, okay, it's time to life will be
Sacrifice.
a little different. And
Yeah.
I really liked how you talked about timing because yeah, life's gonna be different when it's an infant, but then they're gonna go to school. So it's gonna be a little different, but they're still after school things. And then they're gonna drive. And then so then the pie also changes for a parent.
It does. And every single period of our lives, we go through different changes. You know, probably the best times we have is when we're kids because we don't care about the world. you know,
Yeah,
I,
which
I,
is
I,
totally
those days when I remember when I was a kid, there was no responsibility. You just had fun. At least in my days, that's what it was. We didn't have, I mean, the closest game we had was Atari, but that's it. We had very little, very little time on TV. It was all playground outside and do all activities, right? So we just played and had fun, and then went to school. Then vacation time, it was it. Then go to college. It's a different level of fun. Now we're talking mature fun. It's all the college life, right? And you go through that. That's fun. Then you go into the corporate world. The first couple of years, it's all awesome. You have a career path and you're going to do, and we sacrifice a lot and we don't realize how much we sacrifice there. Because I can tell you, I used to work 7 days a week, because I
yeah,
wanted to get to the, I was
totally.
going, I wanted to go to the next level, the next level, next level. And the only way to do it is to really prove yourself. At least that's what I thought the idea was. And, you
Mhm.
do more and you do more. So the powers that be can see you and they give you that next shot, and then eventually realize that still doesn't work because doesn't matter what you do, some of these companies that it's relevant to them. You're just another player, another peon, whatever, on the chessboard that they move. And so that's all there is. And it changes. Then you have kids, then life becomes a whole different story because now you're responsible, and that keeps changing, changing, changing. But time
Mhm.
is the only thing you're running out of, and it's not going to come back. And if you don't enjoy your life, and I was talking to my wife the other day, she had a discussion with someone, and literally they were sharing with her the story of a friend who was planning that he had 6 months to retire, and he was ready to do all this grandiose stuff and travel the world. He died about a week later from making these statements. And that's a constant reminder that comes to my mind because I had a similar story in my life where I was at a company, and I had this person I worked with. Their father retired today, died the next day. And so understanding that that's the problem with life. First, we don't know where we go, even if you live that long. But if you just work, 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 maybe you were not even happy doing the work you're doing it because you got to pay the bills and stuff, right? But you had no time for yourself, for your health. Talking about how much time that would look like for you, your gym time, your wellness time, your fitness, your mental health, breaks, and all this stuff is important. I mean, you want a vacation not because you want a vacation because you want to like decompress. This world
Mhm.
is stressful. Now that actually getting me into the discussion of stress management. I know you do some of
Okay.
that. So
Mhm.
that's a big deal. I think we all stress. It's I don't think someone is watching right now listening doesn't have a level of stress in their life. If they do, please send me an email. I'd like to have you on the show. We can have a
Right.
discussion with you.
Who's has that answer?
we
Totally.
we want to have you as giving us the guidance because I can tell you the world is very difficult to navigate, and stress is real. It's real. It's as real as life and death, right? So how do you help people with that?
Well, getting clear on where exactly their stress is. So, similar to always working on values, I teach them about the wellness wheel. And actually, how I explain it is it's like a pizza. And there's different slices. So it would be physical health or finance or environment, relationships, and I have them rate each slice 1 to 10. 1 is wow, this is bad, and 10 is this is optimal, life is good, I don't need to change a single thing. Um because sometimes what happens is it depends on where you are in your journey, but sometimes I'm sure you've met these people or even been one yourself at some point of my whole life's in shambles. I have nothing going for me. I am, oh, are, is there anywhere decent? Nope, I'm zeros everywhere. But then they do the exercise and they're like, actually, I have a really good support system. I do hate my job and I am significantly overweight. But you know what? Like, I can pay rent and I have a great support system. So it's like, okay, well, what area is causing you the most pain? My physical health. Let's talk about your physical health. But allowing for that clarity before even picking one thing, because coaches are different. All coaches are different, but I have them focus on one thing at a time.
Well, Annie, it's funny because what you described there is the reality of all of us, correct? I mean, we all have at any given point, different things, some up, some down. But the differentiator is what you just did in that exercise is showing them visually that they didn't have it all wrong. They had some good stuff in there, which means now the mindset has to play. This is where you look at positive versus negative, and then
Mm-hmm.
your stress levels will dissipate very easily. Because if you expect that everything's going to be peachy, that would be wrong. There is no such thing as a peachy life. It's going to be
Right.
a lot of nonsense, and ups and downs. But how often, do you look at just the bad versus the good? And there's always good in every situation. If you change your mind or you shift your mindset to always look at what's positive in every single scenario in life, then that
Mm-hmm.
pie becomes a lot more, fives and six and sevens and eights and nines and tens versus ones and zero, and that's really because once you do that, now talking about confidence, talking about getting, a little bit believe, you start getting hope, and then you start like, you have the willingness to make a move. Otherwise, you're completely off, and then that's when you have like bad thoughts, maybe even suicidal thoughts, because like my life is got nothing. I'm worthless, or and then you get all that negative thought, talk to yourself, and that's when it becomes bad. But really, what you said really is you're giving people a visual that they're not doing themselves. Just like you said, you have them write goals. Now they can start seeing like, what really part of their life is really working or not. They might think one thing, but then like, oh, all right, the math doesn't really add up the way I thought. Right, and
Yes.
that's really, but visualizing stuff is like half of the game, right? If you don't see stuff out of sight of the mind, as they say, you're not gonna, you got to put it in front of you and then start analyzing it. You do that with them, you change their lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's very exciting watching people get clarity. And I think you used such a good word. It's hopefulness. When you share your goals with someone and someone's like, okay, let's talk about the top goal. Now let's talk action steps. You're giving them hope of action steps. Okay, we're talking realistic things. And also, sometimes reining them in of it, you don't have to go balls to the walls. Let's not do the gym 7 days a week. Let's not set that goal, right? Because that's going to stress you. How about we start with 2 days a week? And if that's very upsetting to even like think of that, why don't we start with 1 day a week walking around your neighborhood for 10 minutes? Because I think when people think goals, they're like 7 days a week for 70 minutes in the gym. And I'm going to like get the like most expensive gym in the area because then I'll want to go. And this time will be different. But it's like, but it doesn't have to be all or nothing. This is behavior changes. You didn't get 55 pounds overweight overnight. Let's talk about how we're going to like any forward movement is forward movement. We're just trying not to go backwards.
I love it. I mean, you're really hitting on. I thrive in these things. I mean, I love that because you're right. I mean, it's exciting to like, oh, I want to go to the best gym, spend as much money because I commit, right? But even if you did, you're gonna probably either start financially feeling it, or your body's gonna get a toll, and then you're not gonna be, healthy, and then you're gonna be like, oh, I can't do this anymore, and then you give up. But I love what you said. Slowly, slowly forward. One step, two steps, three steps. Before you know it, you're running. That's it. Before you know it, you're just sprinting. But if you do it the other way, you're probably just gonna lose it. Again, that's what happens. We say life is a marathon, not a sprint. You sprint and you're done, right? You marathon it, you're gonna have a lot of stamina, and you can probably endure and go through. And that's a big difference in terms of how people operate. But again, this talk show right now is audio visual, so people are listening to it, and you're bringing stuff that probably people have heard before. The problem is we hear it sometimes, we know about it, but we don't apply it, or we don't structure it in a way. And it's very simple. You can hear about it, but if you're not able to structure it, that's why we have you. You go to a coach to help you and guide you to maneuver through it. Because that's the other thing. Not everybody can do it on their own. Just factual. Some people, they just cannot do it on themselves, with themselves and alone. They need someone to be there next to them to be like a checker, like, hey, up, check. Are you doing this? No, you got to do this. We're like children, at any given time of our lives. When children are young, right, we give them guidance, right? You're there for them. Well, there's one thing about reality of humans, that we always going to need someone sometimes to guide us. As even the best leaders in the world, they still need some guidance.
Mhm.
You just can't do it alone. We're not a solo act humans. We have to have environment and guidance from other people and suggestions, and yes, it's okay to get help. And that's actually the biggest thing that sometimes people don't utilize well, is help. I mean,
Even asking for it. Yeah.
asking for help is very, again, talked about ego earlier, and sometimes you're just like, well, I got this, but do you?
Hmm.
If it's not working, or you're feeling that, I mean, you can ask, what's the worst that can happen? Nothing. And if you commit to a coaching program such as yours, you're only going to benefit from it. And you do have, I'm sure you do have not only have the qualifications, but you have the parameters and the real testimonials to prove that you can help them and change them. And that's really what it is. Sometimes people are just afraid to commit to those things, because they're afraid that, now I have to really apply.
Right. Now I have to actually do the work. Right. That's
Mm.
exactly it.
Well,
That's it. Hmm.
people have to work.
Yeah. And something that you use the word simple. And I think that one of my coaches taught me it. And it's the idea that simple and easy are two different words. A lot of this is simple, but it's not easy, which is why a lot of people don't do it. So, and also, I think that's a great thing. Why are we making it so complex? Some of these self-development books, I read all of them, right? I read all of them. I love all of them. But some of them I read it, I'm like, the everyday person has no idea what you're saying. They're not going to be able to grasp this, because you're talking so out there. Like, this should be a textbook. This shouldn't be like, this is going to confuse people about development. Why are we making it so complex when there are many simple things that we can do for the everyday person who doesn't want to start studying psychology and philosophy and sociology, who just wants
Yeah, well, I mean, the common
less
folk, right?
knowledge.
That may be good for a group of people that actually are learning to be maybe therapists, coaches, stuff. But the common person, they just want to lay more of them and just give me some terms that I can understand, basic.
Yeah.
But I love what the difference between simple and easy. Simple is just that it's not complicated, but
Mhm.
it can still be difficult to do. It's not like it's going to be like, hey, it just, walk in the park. This is going to be challenges, but there'll be simple challenges at a time. Uh, it
Mhm.
is, again, I mean, the mind is powerful, but you have to have also the spirit and the actual gut to actually do certain things to align with your mind and have the drive. And I think that's really sometimes where people are just challenged about. They just don't want to get into that whole mix of, I need, because what is your program like? I mean, it's a few weeks, right? At least.
Mhm.
So now you're
Yeah,
talking about commitment.
it's a commitment, and that's the point. I do have VIP days, but that's like a power day. Like, we are talking about stress and time management. You are leaving with a success map. These are for people who are like busy professionals, where they say, I don't have time for a 6-week program. Are you kidding me? My problem is I don't have time, right? So we can do a VIP day where I essentially teach them you do have time, but um just meeting a person where they're at. And then other people are like, oh no, we it's a 6-week program. Like there's a lot of hand holding. Fantastic. I can text you. We're gonna do video sessions. Like you do Cole, there's resources in between sessions. Like you're gonna ask me questions. We're gonna go over more than one goal. That's very attractive to them. They're like, I want hand holding. How much hand hold? Like, and I get it. I love that stuff. I love simplicity. I pay a lot of money for people to tell me what to do. Like that's why I got coaches. That's why I went to school.
I love your system because you actually do have flexibility between all types of potential clients, and you do have different programs that suit everybody's needs, and that's awesome because now you can gauge what the need is. Like you said, if someone wants an expedited course, and they want straight 1, 2, 3 bullets to get, done, you can do that one day done. But someone who needs that slow, but, slowly but surely process, you have that too. And you have the flexibility. I'm assuming you do this all, online or virtual.
Yeah.
Even
Everything
better,
virtual.
which
So
means that opens up to the world for you.
yeah. And I love that because like I love when I get on with East Coast people because I
Ah,
totally get them. And then when I'm on West Coast, I'm like, yeah, I get you because I'm here. I've been here for like 7 or 8 years. But it's just fun. It's fun talking to people. I've had some international clients too, but something I always say is like people are people are people are people. It doesn't really matter your age or your sex or where you're located. Like we all have these core emotions and feelings and behaviors. Um,
amen to
yeah,
that. I think if we all grasp that well, we will get along well, right?
yes.
Well, so Annie, I mean, we've covered a lot in just a matter of time. I mean, the hour flew, but we're not done yet. So now the book. Now this is an
We'll
interesting book.
try to
So
get it in the
all right, uh, okay, shit. All right. Let me. Shit, I wish I knew in high school. Okay. Well, so that's a powerful book because if I mean, I think my daughter needs to read that. you know,
yeah.
and my son, both of them actually, they should. But here's the thing. So it's really shit that we should have known in high school, right? And a lot of stuff. Today, I mean, listen, I mean, every I guess generation had different experience in high school. Some similar, but it evolved over the decades. I mean, today teenagers are different from in my era time, right? I mean, I'm Gen X. Sorry. I'm assuming you're a millennial. Did I
I'm a
get that?
millennial.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So I mean, everybody is gone through a different process in terms of their teenage days and high school days. But you're right. Things that we could have learned at the time, right? So
hmm
with the book itself, am I getting the core of the book correctly? Things that we've missed that we could have done differently?
Yeah. That's exactly it. I mean, you could probably read it in an hour and a half. It's literally like tips. Like a lot of them don't even take up a full page. And I wrote it for my sisters. My sisters are twins, and I'm 12 years older. And when they became freshmen in high school, I wrote them this book. And I just gave it to them. I didn't share it with anyone, just them. And then earlier this year, I reached out to them and I was like, do you guys mind if I publish it like for more people? I'll take out, because I would do inside jokes with them and write some more personal things. And I was like, I'm going to edit it. Like, it won't be like the sister version, but I am going to use some of the main principles. And they're like, do it up. So there is cursing, like there's cursing in this book, but I wrote it as if talking to high schoolers. And for whatever reason, some parents are in the illusion that most high schoolers don't curse. And they're like, my kid doesn't. Yeah, well,
I'm sorry.
maybe not in front of you. Like I didn't curse in front of my parents. We were a strict Catholic home. I did not curse at home. But once I learned about curse words, I was like, this makes people gasp. Like I'm definitely going to do this for attention. Like once I learned that people, how they feel about curse words. But I mean, anyway, I wanted it to be down to earth. I share personal stories. I get real. I talk about physical health, self-development, friendships, relationships. It's mostly geared towards women or girls, right? But there's so much that applies to men too.
Agreed. I mean, but really, I like the concept because it's real. You can't fluff things up that are you can't. I don't tolerate cursing in my home, but I can tell you, my son is playing with his friends, and every now and then I catch him, throwing all the letters out,
That's
every
how they
letter, I mean, and I walk in, was like, dude, what's up,
don't do
and
that, right?
and he looks at me like, okay, and then here comes another hour, and then he throws another bomb, I'm like, dude, but like as they grow older, it becomes very difficult to just stop them. Like when they were younger, like you can't do that, and they accept it. But they get, because it's not about them, it's the entourage. I mean, you're not cool if the other guys are throwing those things and you're not responding in like, that's a problem. So I get it, and again, it's true. Like these kids, today in high school, they probably know more than I know. I
Oh,
mean, my kids did tell me, like, dude, Dad, where you living? I mean, it's a whole new world right out there, and it's truly high school today. I don't think it's the same where you were there when I went there. It's completely like, the stuff I hear from my kids. I'm like, what? This is happening in high school? It's just nuts. I mean, stories like unbelievable from teenage pregnancies or like early, like middle school pregnancies. Forget about teenage. I mean, people having crazy relationships. Live in different places in the school. I mean, it's just things that
I've
you probably see in movies. It's happening, and it's drugs and all kind of stuff. I mean, the attitude towards teachers now with the crime, or the
schools.
school shootings and all the stuff that's happening. It's really devastating. I mean, our system is just going. I mean, I don't know where it's heading, but it's not heading well. Whatever heading is drowning. It's bad. I mean, but I want to thank you for putting something to potentially guide people, as to the things that could have been different, or at least maybe they could avoid, whatever the case may be. But it's an awareness book. Am I getting that right?
Definitely. Definitely. And I've had a lot of adults read it and they're like, number one, I wish I knew this shit in high school. It's usually the first thing. And then they're like, I think all kids should read this. I mean, truly, as long as the parents aren't going to totally cringe at curse words, but I think this could change kids' lives. I think this book could change kids' lives of just, especially if you don't have siblings. Because siblings, whether we like it or not, they teach us a lot if they're older than us sometimes.
Oh
So.
yeah, I mean, there's someone to share with you. But listen, here is I don't care what they have those rated on TV on those movies, but I mean, once you're a teenager, you're not doing PG-13. Everything is beyond that, and there is curse words, there is all kind of stuff. So it's not like it's a secret. They know this stuff. For years, I thought that my kids were like, they didn't know what the F-bomb was or any of the stuff, and all of a sudden, like, they throw in more words than I know. I'm like,
I know, and
what
I'm
the
like
hell?
looking up an Urban Dictionary. I'm like, wait, what is this? What did they say?
I mean, they're literally talking Morse code now too. I mean, they're like they make fun of me, like when they look at my text, like, Dad, you so old. I mean, you still write words. I'm like, well, I write words. I don't know what you're writing there,
I
because
don't. Right.
it's like three letters, alphabet, and then that's a message. That's Morse code. I mean, it's like I mean, but it's their time. It's I mean, again, it's different generations, different ethics, I guess, and different work and different world that they live in. But some of the basics should be the same. I mean,
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. There's especially the self-development parts. Like one of the tips is you're the sum of the top 5 people you hang out with, good or bad. And whether it's fair or not. Like if all your friends are smoking and drinking, maybe you're the only one not doing that. But what do you think all the parents and teachers think?
them. And
You're
or if they're troublemakers, you just one of the troublemaker crowd.
you're
That's
one of
it.
the
They catch them, you're part of them.
You can cry and tell me it's not fair, but I'm just here for the reality check. they say, and this one's more for adulthood, but your finances are the sum of the top 5 people you're around. So if you're around broke people all the time, maybe you're not broke, maybe not, but there is a good chance that you're also struggling financially.
Your behavior is going to wind up like just shopping and doing this and that, the other, and not
Or
investing.
yes, or similar. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, it's amazing. But sometimes people get caught with the wrong crowd, and they basically get the same outcome. From whoever you happen to be, wrong time, wrong place, that wrong crowd. That's all. It's real. It happens, and it can sometimes really destroy some kid's life because of a choice that they made, and it was just the wrong move. I mean,
When
even
they're
like
so young.
I know. What that's the other problem because in that age, I mean, I mean, you have a psychiatry expertise, and the front lobe is not developed until what 25. I think that's where it's actually where we make the real decisions and stuff. And then I love my psychiatry expert that comes on the shows once a month, Dr. Heim, and he had clearly stated that all the studies have proven that the identity of individuals really matures at 35. That's when we really have our true identity. Now, if you're looking at that, I mean, that's like half of most of people's lives. That's when we really know who we really are and what we want in life. That's a long time, from high school. And so in the high school days, you think life owes you. You think, and by the way, I think we also live in an era of entitlement and an era where people have not been, really taking. Let's put it this way: when I grew up, you said a curse word, you get a spanky, you get something. I mean, you get a slap. And by the way, not just from your parents, your neighbors can actually.
Other people, yeah.
Yeah, and you. If you complain to your parents, they give you another one. That's it. Now now you have kids that have never been, given that kind of behavior from parents or otherwise, so they don't know what that means. And now we see it even like with law enforcement. And someone says, "I need you to, adhere to my request, whatever. I want you to stop, do this, do that." No, I'm not going to do it. They keep challenging them. What do you think the cop is going to do to you? They're going to hug you. If you're not corresponding to, if you're not cooperating, they have no choice but use sometimes, any means necessary to stop you or to get you to respond to them. And you don't have to do that. I mean, it's simple. I always say this: if someone stops you, you give them the stuff that they asked for. If you did something wrong, well, that's where the courts are. If you didn't do anything, that's where the courts are. You don't have to fight with them. That's not a fight you're going to win. I mean, period and out. So it's not. I'm not endorsing, any negative, or maybe like police brutality here or anything. But police do their work, and then that's a good example. And I always tell my kids, if you're not responsive and you're always challenging in life, this can happen. You're probably going to be challenged by an officer or somebody, and they're going to tell you this, and you're going to tell them, "You're going to have attitude." If you give them attitude, there's only one way to go, and it's going to be down.
Pick your battles.
Yeah. So it's not a cool thing, and I think the behaviors that we've been, almost promoting in the last decade or so is that kids have there's no repercussions to their behavior, and so there's insolence, there's all this stuff, and by the way, guys, if you're listening and watching, I apologize if it may hurt your feelings, but at the end of the day, it's reality. If you don't know talking about accountability, if you don't know what that means, you're not going to know how to behave when you're going to be told, something. Even in the corporate world, you're going to work, and the boss is going to tell you, "I need you to do this." Well, you're going to tell, "I'm not going to do it." And they're going to be mad at you. They're going to tell you, "Okay, well, you're fired. Get out." You want to be the boss. You can't. I mean, so that's the thing. It's going to affect you in the long run. So understand that there are, cause and effects. You got to do some things, and you have to actually be responsible for your actions. And you know what? I understand those. But I love what in the book, you're giving some of the stuff that potentially can change some of the dynamics. And I guess today's teenage, mentality or high schoolers, hopefully they become better and they probably share that with the next generation. We're just hopeful, as always, we got to keep the positivity.
Yeah.
I mean, all we're doing here is kind of talking about the obvious and sharing the values, and hopefully people watching and listening can use that maybe as a guidance or maybe as a tip. Share with someone. Again, folks, we're not judging, but we are talking about real things that we experience, we see, and we know, and just avoid headaches because when you're in the wrong crowd, you will get in trouble. And no one's going to save you from trouble. When you have trouble, you're going to deal with it, and your family's going to suffer. You're going to suffer, and it can hurt your whole path in life. You know, if you want
Yeah.
to live a longer life and happier life, and all the people that you watch and admire on social media and they have achieved great things, well, they haven't gotten in trouble. For the most part, most of those guys didn't. They actually were good, and they succeeded, and now they're like your role models. But if they did, you wouldn't have known about them because they'll be in jail or dead. I mean, that's true. You wouldn't be like too keen on them anyways, right? So that's kind of like the concept. So understand that you want to be like them. There's a behavior change that needs to happen. So Annie, I mean, wow, time is flying here. We've covered a lot. I know you got to go. Any advice to share with our audiences today? As your last message for them.
I guess this kind of goes with the theme of what we were talking about, and it's another quote. I can't think of where I heard it. It's don't take criticism from someone you wouldn't go to for advice.
I've heard that before, and it's powerful because you're right. Why would you?
Like back to the idea of like, don't care what other people think. But if you respect your boss and they shared with you like a way you can improve your performance and you can take that skill with you for jobs ahead or for life ahead, if your partner tells you something you don't want to hear, but it will make you a better person. But if that coworker who's so annoying and obnoxious and you don't even know how they make the same salary as you, don't worry about their criticism. You would never go to them for them advice. You would never ask for their support. So why are you taking their negativity?
But you know what they say? No one's going to criticize you that's doing better than you.
There you go.
I mean, if they're doing better than you, they're not going to criticize you. You're not even in the spectrum. They don't have time. They're not looking at you, right? So that's really what it is. Unfortunately, that's reality, folks. And by the way, we can use that as a positive, not a negative. Don't look at it from the negative part, like well, I'm better or stuff. No, just look at it this way. You want to always look up to better things. We are humans that always want to do more and better. And so looking at the bad stuff doesn't give you anything. Maybe look at it from a lesson learned. That's okay. What not to do. That's okay. I mean, we talked about behavior. Well, these are some behaviors that we shouldn't be doing so we can do better. Not like looking at them like, exciting stuff. They're not exciting because they're going to ruin your life. So Annie, how can people reach out to you and get in touch with you in order to potentially join your program if they wanted to?
I would say write to my website. It would just be I'm not a huge social media fan. They can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all under Annie Delre. But I think website would be best.
Perfect. So we will have that link on the job. I always say this, the actual show description. I started a channel called the Job Market Channel. So we talk about job description and jobs and positions and stuff. So my mind. I've been writing all that stuff. So my mind is really on that. But really, we're talking about here the description of the show. So the link will be there. And yeah. Well, Annie, thank you for really joining, for great advice, for sharing some of the work you do, and definitely for the real pieces that you shared with our audiences today. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity.
My pleasure. And so there you have it, folks. I hope you had the fun with us. You had a great time. Hopefully you learned some tricks here. And that's about it for today. We'll be talking soon. New day, new show, new guest, new topic. Bye for now.